What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, my name is Moa Saltorre, and it has been a hot minute since I've done a purely makeup tips focused tutorial. Hashtag just the tips. So I thought for today's video, I would go over my best tips that I can give you guys that'll help you make your makeup look cohesive. Things like matching the cheeks to the lips, to the eyes, to making sure your brows are perfectly structured for your face, and things like that. Because I know sometimes you might try and recreate a look, maybe one of mine or someone else's, and you look in the mirror and you're like, something looks off about my makeup. So hopefully these tips will help you pull together a look from start to finish and have it look complete, perfect, ready to party, all that good stuff. So if you guys are interested, just keep on watching. All right, let's start by talking about the brows first, because they're just as important as the skin, because if the brows are off and the skin is off, the rest of the makeup is gonna be off and you're not gonna feel fully confident in your makeup. The brows help to frame the face. They also help with eyeshadow placement, how far in you'll take it, how far out, as well as contour placement. So my first big tip for you guys, especially if you have little to no brows, is to actually fill them in first. And I know I normally fill them in towards the end, but that's because, I'm not gonna lie, I have pretty decent bold brows, so it doesn't take much. But I know for a lot of you out there, you do have to build a brow. And so I'm gonna show you guys how I would go about doing that with no makeup on, using the Benefit Brow Contour Pro Pen. I actually wish this was around when I was a freelance makeup artist. I actually used to always do a client's brows first, because it's not like I'm working on my own face. I'm working on a different face every day. And by building their brow first, I could really get a general sense for the framing of their face. And again, with eyeshadow placement and all that good stuff. So I wish this was around, because sometimes I would have to completely build a brow from scratch. And I would have to carry so many products to make sure I was able to build that brow. But this has everything in one. It has, so it's kind of like, remember those old school colored pencils that had a bunch of different colors and you would just click to bring down whatever color it is that you wanted? This is a pretty similar concept. So if you click down on one of these guys up here, these little tabs, you dispense one of the products. So in here we have a darker eyebrow color. So I'm using the shade Brown Light because I love the variation of color from the light and the dark in this particular color for my brows. So we have a darker shade, we have the lighter shade, which is great for creating that tapered brow effect, going from light to dark. And we have a definer, which essentially works like a concealer to help clean up around the brows. And you also have a highlighter. So everything that you could possibly need to build a brow from scratch is in this one product. So let's go ahead and zoom you guys in so I can show you how I would fill in my brows when I have no makeup on, because I do have some tips and tricks. So the first thing I actually like to do is take a translucent setting powder, pick it up on a brush, and lightly dust it across the brows. It's gonna help to absorb any excess oil, especially because we don't have foundation or concealer on right now and we haven't set anything. It could get really slippery, so this is gonna help the pencil just really go onto the skin and not slip and slide everywhere, so you can get a really nice clean application. Maybe I should have tweezed my brows before doing this tutorial. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this Benefit spoolie brush and I'm gonna brush the brow hairs down so you can see what needs more filling in, which is like right here. Since I'm filling in the top, I'm gonna start with the darker shade first. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring this down, roll it up to dispense a little bit of the product. And the little tip of mine that I like to do with pencils that are flat is to just roll it between a napkin like this to create a nice point. See that? I taught Miriam how to do this in our collaboration video and she was like, whoa, that's genius. So just give it a really light roll like that and you'll have a fine point. So I like to start at the very high point of the brow right here and just start lightly in small strokes feathering it in. And then as I go, I like to brush it back in to make it look more natural. And once I've gotten the tail filled in, because that is the most sparse area of my brows, I'll bring it all the way in. And then again, once you're done, brush it back into the rest of the brow and then brush up so we can fill in the bottom. That already gives you a pretty good brow. That looks filled in. You honestly don't need that much more, but I wanna see this, or I want this to be a little more defined. So I'm gonna go to the lighter shade now. I'm gonna click down to dispense the lighter shade, just like that. And I'm gonna lightly feather in under here, just so that the brow looks a little more complete and defined. And always remember to brush the product back into the brow once you're done filling it in. So with all the blending in of the product, you tend to get a little fuzziness around the edges, so that is where the definer is gonna come into play. So we're gonna go ahead and dispense the definer, and just like a concealer, we're gonna go ahead and run this along the entire brow on top and on bottom just to further define it out, carve it out. This is especially great, again, if you have very sparse to no brows, because it's gonna give you a really nice, clear, and defined brow. And to blend that out, I like to take a synthetic brush, one that's pretty dense and stiff, like this IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe number 5 brush. And I'm just gonna go ahead and blend out this definer. Again, I'm gonna brush the brow hairs up and see how clean that brow looks in comparison to this one. This one just looks a lot more defined. And for the final step, we're gonna use the highlighter to really brighten up that brow bone. And I'm gonna use that same brush to blend it out. And here you have the final result. We built a brow from scratch. Well, not technically from scratch because I have a lot of brow, but if you were building a brow from scratch, this is how I would go about doing it to create a really nice defined brow. Ooh, look at those clean looking brows. Okay, moving on to tip number 2. So I know a lot of you may not feel completely comfortable doing your base first because you get fallout, you might mess up the base when doing your eyeshadow. So I would say color correct and cover up any imperfections before going in with eyeshadow if you don't feel completely comfortable doing your base. The reason I do my base first is because it's almost like it gives me a clean canvas. It gives me a blank slate to work with. What I like to do is take a little bit of my Lancome Teint Idole Ultra Wear Camouflage Concealer, or any correcting color that you would like, any concealer, and just cover up, again, any imperfections. So for me, it's the redness around the nose. I could easily cover up these blemishes, the redness around the chin. So I'm gonna take a small kabuki brush and just work it into those areas, so underneath the eyes. And you'll see once I add this, it makes a huge difference. It almost looks like I've done my foundation, even though I haven't. So I'm just covering that up. I'm gonna take my Beauty Blender and blend everything out. And I'm just dragging this corrector onto the eyelid as well in case you have discoloration on your eyelids. That's also huge. You wanna correct that before going in with eyeshadow. See how it looks like I've already done my base? Everything is now even. You're not focusing on the blemishes and the redness. I was actually trained when doing makeup on clients to do their base first, because if not, they get really caught up in the imperfections when you're doing their eyeshadow, especially a really dramatic dark smoky eye. They see this dark smoky eye and then they're also seeing the blemishes, the redness, and they get very taken aback by it. They're like, oh, it's not looking right. And then they always end up loving it at the end. But if you cover up the imperfections first, they don't focus on that, they don't dwell on it, and they just let it flow as it naturally would, you know? So that is tip number 2. I'm gonna go ahead and do my base because my next tip has to do with eyeshadow and blush and lip. I finished my base, added bronzer, I started to highlight, and then I realized this is actually another really good tip for you guys, because if you've noticed, I always highlight before anything else or before doing eyes and blush in my tutorials, and that's because sometimes if you wait to do highlighter till the very end, it can almost look streaky. You'll have like stripes of highlighter where you highlight. So instead, I like to add it before blush and before eyeshadow, so that way it almost seamlessly blends into the blush and the shadow. So I'm taking this Artist Couture Diamond Luxe Luminizer in Hot Damn. These are my favorite illuminizers or highlighters right now. They're so glossy on the skin. This color in particular works so well with my skin tone. I'm just gonna go ahead and work it into this pocket. See how glossy it looks? This is also the one that Camila Coelho was using in our collab video. I know a lot of you guys were asking which highlighter it was. It was this one by Artist Couture. And I feel like also when you highlight first, you can kind of go a little crazy with it because you can blend your eyeshadow over it, you can blend your blush over it, and it's gonna look a lot more natural. So just go ahead and add to the high points. And then another tip that I like to do is take my large fluffy powder brush that I use to set with and blend across the entire face. I'll do it once when I add highlighter and then again when I add blush, so that it again doesn't look streaky and it looks well blended. Nothing bothers me more than streaky highlighter. You know, when you can see like the stripes of it, you want to have it nicely diffused into the rest of your makeup. All right, so just like how the eyebrows help with eyeshadow placement, the same thing goes for contouring the eyes first. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need a cream contour. All you need is a really light eyeshadow, like a transition shade, or even your bronzer. And a bronzer is gonna make your makeup look even more cohesive because it's gonna be the same color as the bronzer on your face. So I'm gonna use the same bronzer that I used on my face, which is the Laura Mercier, you guys already know it, Matte Radiance Baked Bronzer Shade 02. It's my favorite because it's almost like a contouring and bronzing shade in one, perfect for the eyes and the face. And I just take a large blending brush. What do you want, Mika? And you follow the socket of your eye to really define your eye, so that way when you go in with darker eyeshadows, more vibrant eyeshadows, you can just follow that guideline and you're not going in blind and kind of going all over the place with it. The easiest way for me to explain this to you guys is I would tuck it in out here. Always start with the outer portion of the eye first and blend it in small windshield wiper motions. So this is gonna give you a general idea for your eye shape. And then for me, I like to really extend it out this way. So I start with the eye socket and then I go ahead and blend out in this direction, which is gonna give the eyes more of a cat eye appearance. So just go ahead and apply it to the crease. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing to the lower lash line just so that the shadow connects from this outer corner up. So now when I go in with my actual eyeshadow, all I have to do is follow that guideline that I created with the bronzer. Mascara tip. If you have crazy long lashes or lower lashes like mine and they can easily look like spider legs, use an espresso brown mascara instead of a black and it's gonna look a lot more natural. It'll still give you the volume and it'll make your lower lashes pop. It just won't look extreme like a black mascara would. So I'm gonna be using, or this is my all-time favorite, the Tarte Lifted Mascara because it's extremely waterproof, sweat-proof, humidity-proof. It doesn't transfer underneath my eyes. I absolutely love this mascara. I've used it to the very end. It's like so dry now. So bad. But I'm gonna go ahead and apply this to the lower lashes instead of a black mascara. I have no clue what number tip I'm on, but we're gonna move on to blush because blush is one of those items that can really throw off your look if the undertone doesn't match the lip or the eyes. So I have two tricks for you guys when it comes to blush. The first being to always match your blush undertone to your lip undertone. That way it all looks cohesive. So if you're wearing a red, use a reddish berry colored blush, depending on if it's a cool tone or warm tone red though. That can also change it up. So try and stick to the undertone. If you're using a dusty pink, use a dusty blush. If you're using a peachy lip, use a peachy blush. And when it comes to matching your blush to your eyes, you can easily just toss a little bit of your blush into the outer portion of the crease to make it look cohesive. So my best or easiest trick for matching cheek and lip is to use the same product, which is why I love my Purity lip pencil from my collaboration with Nudestix. It can go on the lips and the cheeks and it's so easy because you know it's gonna match because it's the same color. It can be used on the lips and cheeks. If blush throws you off, one more tip that I'm throwing in here, you can also put the lip on first and leave your blush to the very, very end versus putting the blush on, because once you put blush on, you're committed. Sometimes it's good to apply your lip first so you can see what the actual undertone is on your skin and then pick a blush accordingly. So let's go ahead and apply Purity. So I could easily toss this on the cheeks, but I want to give myself a bit of a challenge so I can show you guys or give you an example. So I'm going to hold up a few different blush options and I'm going to show you which one I would pick out. So these are the three that I picked out. All of these are the Bare Minerals, what are they called? Gen Nude powder blushes. I really like these, they go on really nice and soft. So just looking at this, I know these two middle ones are gonna skew very brassy and peachy on my skin. So I wouldn't go with those two, they're too peachy for this lip color. This is definitely like a cool toned mauvey lip. Making sure there's no lipstick on my teeth. But between these two, I feel like I could use either or. This is definitely like a dusty pink. For a lighter option, there's gonna be like a deeper plum. I think, oh, and this one too looks really good. Ooh. I actually like this one the best. It's kind of like an in-between of those two. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply this color, which is On the Mauve. I didn't even plan that. I didn't do it on purpose. I had no idea that was the name of this blush, but it's gonna go perfectly with this lip. I'm also gonna toss a tiny bit into the crease so you guys can see what I mean when I say toss a little bit of the blush into your shadow to get a cohesive look. And by the way, I did miss myself before mascara. I just waited a really long time for it to dry before going in with the blush. So perfect. Do you see how it just matches with the lip? And the eyes are also fairly cool tone, just the lid color is a little warmer and glittery. So it all really balances itself out. I've been sitting here for too long. I gotta walk Mika. And then again, I'm gonna do that trick with the large powder brush and just blend across the entire face so everything looks well blended. And with that large eyeshadow brush that I used to apply my crease color, I'm gonna pick up a tiny bit of this blush and just toss it into this outer corner. Just so a little bit of that pink peeks through, like that. And you have a complete look. And that wraps up all of my best tips and advice I can give you guys when it comes to creating a very cohesive looking look. Very cohesive makeup look. Let me know if you found these tips helpful. If you recreate a look and use any of these tips, make sure to tag me, use the hashtag just the tips. Should we use that? Is that inappropriate? I don't know. I think it's hilarious. But definitely let me know in the comment section below if you found this video helpful. Do you want more tip and advice based tutorials versus full-blown makeup tutorials? Let a girl know and I will obviously recreate more of them for you. This was a really fun video for me to do for you guys because I have a lot of tips to share and I love sharing them with you guys. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, my bangs are getting too long that they are stabbing me in the eye. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, share it, subscribe, hit that notification bell. As Ellen says, remember to be kind to one another. I'm gonna make that a thing at the end of my videos. I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.